Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And we will start off with our major top stories and reports. Dar al-Ifta, the authority responsible for issuing religious edicts, announced on Sunday that the Islamic holy month of Ramadan of the Hijri year 1445 will start on Monday, 11th of March. More details.
Ramadan is the ninth month of the Islamic calendar observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, sawm, prayer, salah, reflection, and community. A commemoration of Prophet Muhammad's first revelation, the annual observance of Ramadan is regarded as one of the 5 pillars of Islam and lasts 29 to 30 days from one sighting of the crescent moon to the next. Fasting from dawn to sunset is obligatory for all adult Muslims who are not actually or chronically ill, traveling, elderly, breastfeeding, diabetic, or pregnant. The pre-dawn meal is referred to as suhoor, and the nighty feast that breaks the fast is called iftar. Although rulings or fatwa have been issued declaring that Muslims who live in regions with a midnight sun or polar night should follow the timeline of Mecca, it is common practice to follow the timetable of the closest country in which rite can be distinguished from day. The spiritual rewards, thawab of fasting, are believed to be multiplied during Ramadan. Accordingly, during the hours of fasting, Muslims refrain not only from food and drink but also tobacco products and sinful behavior, devoting themselves instead to prayer and study of the Quran.
Welcome back, and still with our special reports. Minister of Local Development Hisham Amna announced on Tuesday that all shops and restaurants will be allowed to open till 2 a.m. Cairo local time during the holy month of Ramadan, which is set to start on the 11th of March in Egypt. Let's check out this report.
Minister of Local Development Hisham Amna announced that all shops and restaurants will be allowed to open till 2 a.m. during the holy month of Ramadan. All shops, malls, restaurants, cafes, and bazaars would close at 2 a.m. throughout the month of Ramadan and the 3 days of Eid al-Fitr, according to Amna. Restaurants and cafes would continue to provide takeaway services and home deliveries 24 hours. Supermarkets, grocery stores, and bakeries are exempt from all restrictions on opening and closing times. All other establishments would observe regular closing times at 10 p.m. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed as a guide for humanity with clear proofs of guidance and the stranded to distinguish between right and wrong. So whoever is this month, let them fast. But whoever is ill or in a journey, then let them fast an equal number of days after Ramadan. Allah intends ease for you, not hardship, so that you may complete the prescribed period and proclaim the greatness of Allah for guiding you, and perhaps you will be grateful.
Welcome back. The UN Security Council has urged a ceasefire in Sudan over the Islamic holy month of Ramadan in order to facilitate aid for those in need. More details.
The United Nations Security Council called for a ceasefire in Sudan to coincide with the Muslim holy month of Ramadan as conditions in the country continue to deteriorate. 14 countries backed the resolution proposed by Britain, with only Russia abstaining on the vote that called on all parties to the conflict to seek a sustainable resolution to the conflict through dialogue. Fighting has been raging in Sudan since April 15, 2023, pitting the army of General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan against the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces of General Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, the former number 2 in the military establishment. It has left thousands dead and millions displaced. The United Nations called on all sides to adopt an immediate cessation of hostilities ahead of the Ramadan month, a time for fasting, prayer, and reflection for Muslims worldwide. It also calls on the warring parties to allow unhindered humanitarian access across borders and battle lines. Sudan's ambassador to the United Nations said Burhan has welcomed the initiative but questioned how a ceasefire could be enforced should RSF forces continue to attack civilian areas. At the Secretary Council meeting, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for all parties in Sudan to honor the values of Ramadan by honoring a Ramadan cessation of hostilities.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and to shed more light on the celebration of the holy month of Ramadan in different African states. We're delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Suaid Shalabi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ramadan is celebrated in most African countries, and of course there are different rituals and features of each country. Would you tell us more about the common features of celebrating Ramadan in different African states?
Well, as you know, Ramadan is a month of spiritual reflection. It's all over the world. It's the same holy month celebrated in different ways because it's the holiest month in the calendar, Islamic calendar.
Right.
This is where the first verses of the Quran were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. That is why people celebrate Ramadan, and last 10 days is Laylatul Qadr. So even in African countries, they are celebrating the month when they see the moon. They have to see the crescent at the beginning, and they celebrate it. Each country in its own way by Quran and by reading verses of the Quran and by praying Salatul Qiyam. And it is very important for Muslims to see the sunrise and the sunset every day, because they know the hours, because that is when they fast. They abstain from food and drink. And as you know, it is not only about fasting. So Ramadan is about charity, about kindness, about getting together, about helping the poor, emphasizing with the less fortunate. So usually in African countries, they receive a lot of charity from different countries, and that is why the poor people, Muslims in African countries, they are waiting for this month in order to receive charities from different wealthy countries, less Islamic countries. So it is an obligation for the wealthy to give to the poor. That is why African nations who are celebrating Ramadan are usually receiving lots of charities from other countries, and especially given to the poor.
Great.
So,
Ramadan, of course, as you mentioned, is the month of charity. Are there any special features of the celebration of the holy month in some of the African countries?
yes, of course, it is exactly like well, of course, in Egypt we celebrate more than other countries in the Arab world and in Africa, but for instance, in African countries, like for instance in the Ivory Coast, they also give more lectures. They preach in the mosques. They give more lessons to the children. And for instance, in Senegal, Ramadan is also supposed to give attention to organizing meals for poor and for the needy, and they also give in Senegal they do like Ramadan sugar. They offer lot of sugar corn for the poor people, and so usually it is a duty among women in Senegal to spend more money in buying gifts for the children during Ramadan. They let them wear fancy clothes, and they let them eat fancy food. And of course, the juices and different kinds of juices that are prepared in African countries are coming from the different products, the fruits that they are doing, that they are producing. And also in Morocco, they are slaughtering more more sheep in order to provide meals and for the needy, and also the families get together to celebrate the fasting days, and they prepare special iftar, Moroccan dishes, and milk and dates and dry fruits. Usually in Morocco they break the fast and then they pray, and then they have the bigger meal like a supper or like a dinner later. So after they recite the Quran and they pray the Aisha, they eat, they celebrate. And of course, Laylatul Qadr is celebrated all over Africa, and
Yes.
in North Africa, in Tunisia, for instance, and in Morocco, in Algeria, they all celebrate Laylatul Qadr, the last 10 days of Ramadan.
Great. I would like to thank you so much, Ambassador Suad Shalabi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Many thanks for your insight.
You're welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Dear viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.